Have you ever, like, listened to a piece of music, maybe something bleeding through a neighbor's wall, or, I don't know, blasting from a passing car, and just thought, is this just
Oh,
noise?
absolutely. Like you're straining to find the melody or the rhythm.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. You're looking for the hook, and you're getting nothing but this, like, wall of chaotic sound. It's abrasive, it's confusing.
Right.
But what if that racket, the feedback, the grinding gears, the disjointed tape loops, what if that was actually a carefully constructed, highly intentional critique of modern life?
Well, I mean, it forces a complete rewiring of how we consume audio. We're conditioned from birth to expect structure, right?
Yeah, totally.
A chorus, a verse, a recognizable instrument played in a recognizable scale. And when you strip all of those comforting elements away,
It's jarring.
it demands a totally different kind of listening. You
Hmm.
stop looking for a tune to hum, and you start confronting the raw physics and cultural weight of sound itself.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is exactly the mission of our deep dive today. We are exploring a sweeping 50-year retrospective of the Bay Area noise and experimental music scene.
A really fascinating laboratory for sound.
Exactly. We're zeroing in on San Francisco, Oakland, and the whole surrounding ecosystem there to figure out how this specific region became a unique laboratory for subculture.
Hmm.
Over the last 5 decades, artists here have used everything from, like, heavy industrial machinery to medical equipment.
Which is wild to think about.
Right, and sheer unbridled improvisation, all to completely redefine the boundaries of what we even call music.
Yeah, and to really grasp the magnitude of this movement,
Yeah?
we have to establish the underlying philosophical engine driving it all.
Okay.
Because this isn't just a chronological timeline of people turning their amplifiers up to 11.
Just making a racket in a garage.
Right, exactly. It's actually a 50-year study in destruction and resonance. The narrative here tracks a fascinating evolution.
Like a progression of how they approach the sound.
Yeah, so we begin with physical, visceral, genuinely dangerous destruction in the late 1970s.
Wow.
And from there, the scene shifts to deconstructing intangible media in the 1980s.
Okay, so moving from the physical to the broadcast kind of stuff.
Exactly. Before maturing into a highly conceptual academic form of art that ends up in international museums.
That is quite a leap.
It really is. But the recurring question for these artists is always, where's the boundary of acceptable sound and what happens to the audience when we just smash right through it?
That concept of destruction and resonance is like the perfect lens for this, and it requires us to go back to the late 1970s,
Way
long before digital audio workstations made it easy to just, generate synthetic noise with the click of a mouse. We are starting with raw mechanical destruction.
the physical stuff.
Yeah. So in 1978, a group called Survival Research Laboratories, or SRL, was founded by Mark Pauline, and they really established the Bay Area as a premier experimental lab for sound and heavy machinery.
Calling it a laboratory is almost, it's almost an understatement.
Really?
Yeah, SRL completely bypassed the traditional performance setup. No stage, no guitars, no drum kits.
So what were they doing?
They built massive, custom-engineered machines, often out of scavenged industrial parts.
Like junkyard scraps.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And they just set them loose in semi-controlled environments.
Okay, I picture it essentially like a Mad Max demolition derby crashing into a modern art museum.
That is a very accurate visual.
I mean, we're talking about performances featuring actual fire, thick clouds of dust, and the ear-splitting shrieks of metal grinding against metal.
Oh, yeah.
As these machines literally tore themselves or each other apart. But let me push back on the core premise here for a second.
Sure.
If I drop a heavy wrench into an industrial meat grinder, that's just a terrible workplace accident.
Right.
But if Mark Pauline does it on purpose in an abandoned parking lot, how is that considered a music scene?
Well, what's fascinating here is that SRL recognized sound as a physical entity. We tend to think of music as something that happens, like, politely inside our ears.
Right, through headphones or whatever.
Exactly. But sound is compressed air moving at high speeds. It's a physical wave that hits your skin, your chest, your bones.
Feel it.
You really do. And SRL explicitly foregrounded the visual spectacle and the actual physical danger of those waves.
So the danger was the point.
Yeah. When a giant machine is spewing fire and ripping steel apart 30 feet away from you, the deafening noise it generates is inextricably linked to the visual violence. They were curating that sensory overload.
Okay, so the lack of traditional rhythm or melody is exactly the point.
Precisely.
They were taking the massive, unfeeling machinery of the industrial age and forcing the audience to physically endure its byproduct.
It was a deliberate artistic critique of the military-industrial complex
Huh.
and the mechanized world.
Wow.
By taking that violence, isolating it from a factory setting and placing it right in front of an audience, they blurred the line between performance art and acoustic assault.
Acoustic assault, that's a great phrase.
It fits perfectly. They proved that noise could be an immersive, full-body experience that forces you to confront the very technology society relies on.
Which is heavy.
Very. And it set a massive precedent in the Bay Area. The idea that music, or at least sound art, does not have to be safe. It can, and perhaps should, threaten you a little bit.
That is a wildly aggressive foundation to build a local scene on. But I mean, the evolution from there makes perfect sense.
How so?
Well, if SRL proved you could weaponize physical machinery in the 70s, the next logical hurdle emerges as society changes.
Right, because the culture is shifting.
Exactly. As we move into the 1980s, the dominant force in American life is no longer just the factory. It's the television, the radio, the broadcast.
The media age.
Right, and you can't put a television signal into a metal grinder to destroy it.
I mean, you can't. The tools of societal control shifted from heavy industry to information and mass media. Consequently, the tools of the experimental artists had to shift in tandem. They moved from destroying concrete and steel to dismantling information itself.
Which brings us to Negativland.
Ah, yes.
This San Francisco area collective dominated this next era by becoming absolute pioneers of tape collage and sampling.
They really were ahead of their time.
Definitely. Their 1987 album, Escape from Noise, is just a pivotal cultural artifact. It's a dense, chaotic mix of tape collage and short tracks that completely recontextualized the auditory garbage of American media.
Yeah, they were utilizing complex splicing techniques to appropriate radio broadcasts, evangelist sermons, advertisements.
Just ripping audio from anywhere.
Everywhere. But they didn't just passively sample these things, they actively weaponized them.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Negativland was notorious for generating their own fake advertisements and staging media hoaxes.
Right.
They deliberately courted controversy to manipulate the news cycle.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Looking at the way Negativland fabricated fake ads and chopped up radio broadcasts to hijack the news cycle, they were effectively operating as the analog predecessors to today's internet meme culture, or even deepfakes.
Oh, absolutely. That is a perfect comparison.
Right, because they were taking polished pop culture, physically chopping the magnetic tape into little pieces, completely divorcing the audio from its original context, and reassembling it to satirize the very media it came from.
And the comparison to meme culture is spot on because it's all about subverting the original intent of the media.
Taking something serious and making it absurd.
Yes. Negativland represented this crucial intersection between harsh experimental noise and mainstream pop culture. They realized that you don't need a giant flame-throwing robot to create a disruptive soundscape.
You can just use a radio.
Exactly.
Right.
You can create just as much dissonance by aggressively re-editing the evening news. They were engaging in deep, often highly legally risky media criticism.
I mean, if you take a slick, perfectly produced car commercial,
Right.
and you start aggressively looping the salesman's voice, stuttering it, speeding it up, and layering it over an abrasive industrial drone, you completely strip away its power to sell you a car.
You completely break the spell. You expose the underlying manipulation. You're left with just the aggressive psychological cadence of consumerism.
They reveal the artificiality of mass media by applying the ethos of noise to it.
Wow.
They showed the art world that noise didn't just have to be physically loud, it could be culturally and intellectually dangerous. It challenged the information diet of the public.
That's a really good point.
The title of that 1987 album, Escape from Noise, is incredibly telling. The noise they were escaping wasn't loud music. It was the relentless, deafening barrage of advertising and manufactured consent in 1980s America.
They dismantled the intangible media the same way SRL dismantled the physical machinery.
Exactly.
And that deconstruction paves the way for the Bay Area scene to get even more granular. Moving into the 1990s and the 2000s, the focus shifts inward.
The conceptual era.
Right. The experimental ethos here matures into something highly academic, gaining international museum-level recognition.
Yeah, the scene moved from physical danger to media satire and finally to rigorous conceptual art. And the duo that really exemplifies this transition is Matmos.
Okay, Matt Vos.
And formed in San Francisco in the 90s, they became the driving force behind pushing avant-garde sound manipulation into major art institutions and modern music festivals.
So they took it out of the underground and into the gallery.
Yes, they elevated the concept of the sample to an entirely new academic tier.
They released a string of critically acclaimed projects, like their 2003 album The Civil War, which really pushed the boundaries of conceptual sampling.
Very complex stuff.
But their 2001 release, A Chance to Cut is a Chance to Cure, is the one that really tests the limits of what an audience can handle.
Oh boy, yes it does.
The entire album is constructed strictly using medical sounds as its source material.
We are talking about the sounds of actual surgical procedures.
Yeah.
Laser eye surgery, liposuction tubes, the physical, visceral reality of the human body being sliced, suctioned, and operated on.
Oh, man.
And all recorded with high-fidelity microphones.
Okay, I have to pause here because this is where the theory hits a very uncomfortable reality for the listener.
It's definitely challenging.
Doesn't building a musical project out of surgical noises cross the line from avant-garde into just purely alienating?
I can see why you'd think that.
I mean, a vast majority of people get a spike in their heart rate just smelling the rubbing alcohol in a doctor's waiting room.
Sure.
How does an album made out of scalpels cutting tissue and the pneumatic hiss of respirators become internationally acclaimed high art?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the brilliance of Matmos lies in that exact discomfort.
The discomfort is the point.
Yes. Medical sounds are inherently terrifying. They represent vulnerability, mortality, and clinical coldness.
Mm-hmm.
But Matmos didn't just play recordings of surgeries to shock people.
They didn't just press play and walk away.
Exactly. They took those incredibly distressing audio files and subjected them to rigorous rhythmic and melodic sequencing.
So they are taking the audio of clinical trauma and forcing it into the structure of electronic dance music or like ambient soundscapes.
Yes, exactly.
How does that actually work mechanically? I'm trying to picture it.
By isolating the microsounds, the sharp, transient click of a surgical instrument being set on a metal tray becomes a hi-hat.
Oh, wow.
The low, rhythmic thud of a heartbeat monitor or the mechanical pumping of a fluid machine is pitched down to become a bass line.
That is wild.
When you take the terrifying raw data of human survival and force it into a musical grid, you achieve a kind of intellectual alchemy. You transform clinical dread into aesthetic beauty.
It completely recontextualizes the listener's relationship to their own biology.
Right.
Instead of hearing the sound of invasive surgery as a violation, you're forced to hear it as rhythm.
Which is incredibly powerful.
It ties back to that original theme of destruction and resonance.
Mm.
Surgery is, by definition, the controlled destruction of tissue in order to create healing to restore the body's resonance.
Beautifully put.
Matmos captured the literal audio of that process. I mean, it's worlds away from playing a guitar, but it achieves the profound emotional manipulation that all great art strives for.
And this rigorous academic approach to sound research is what cemented the Bay Area's reputation globally.
It proved they weren't just making noise.
Exactly. It proved the region wasn't just a haven for chaotic underground warehouse shows, but a legitimate incubator for high-concept contemporary art that belonged in museums in London or Tokyo.
Which raises the question of survival. We've tracked this journey from fire-breathing machines in parking lots to analog tape splicing to the digital manipulation of surgical recordings.
Quite a trajectory.
When the world shifts into the highly polished, hyper-connected digital age of the 2010s and 2020s, how does a localized scene built on friction and noise sustain itself? Does it just dissolve into the internet?
The ecosystem adapts by becoming a very specific kind of hybrid. The current era of the Bay Area scene survives through a dual approach.
Okay, what does that look like?
Well, it utilizes global digital infrastructure while aggressively doubling down on physical, local community spaces.
Got it. The digital side is obvious. Platforms like Bandcamp allow these hyper-niche experimental artists to instantly distribute a harsh noise record to a dedicated fan in Berlin or Tokyo without needing a traditional record label.
Right, the reach is global now.
But the physical spaces remain the absolute lifeblood of the movement. You have institutions like Noise Pop, an annual indie and experimental festival in San Francisco that has been running for decades.
And you have platforms like Bay Improviser, which functions as the connective tissue for the entire live improvisation network.
Like a central hub.
Yeah, it's a community calendar and resource that ensures the practitioners of this incredibly niche art form actually know where to physically gather. The cross-pollination in these live spaces is essential.
To understand what is actually happening in those spaces today, we can look at a contemporary benchmark, a 2023 album by Bill Orcutt called Jump On. It is highlighted in our source material as a masterclass in the modern experimental scene.
It really is a phenomenal record.
And the twist here completely subverts expectations. It's not an album of giant machines or complex electronic sampling. It showcases a shift toward experimental acoustic guitar work.
So what does this all mean? We started with gigantic roaring industrial machines tearing themselves apart, and half a century later, one of the most celebrated contemporary works of the noise scene is a guy sitting in a room with an acoustic guitar.
It redefines the entire premise of the scene.
Completely.
It proves that noise is not a specific set of tools. It's not defined by volume or by how much electricity you're pulling from the wall.
Right.
It's an approach. Bill Orcutt takes the most traditional, recognizable instrument in the Western world, the acoustic guitar, and plays it in a way that shatters conventional phrasing.
He utilizes dissonant tunings, fractured time signatures, striking the wood of the instrument, plucking the strings with an aggression that prioritizes the friction of the wire over the purity of the note.
So he's treating the guitar almost like a machine.
Exactly. He is deconstructing the acoustic guitar the same way Negativland deconstructed the radio broadcast.
It's the intent to break the rules that matters, regardless of the instrument.
That's the core of it.
And this brings us back to why the live physical community is so vital for this music to survive. I mean, you can stream Bill Orcutt's dissonant acoustic guitar on your phone while riding the subway,
Sure, you can.
but you are losing the physical reality of the sound. To truly understand the friction of those acoustic waves, you need the energy and the acoustic resonance of the room.
That continuous, active re-editing and critiquing of sound
Mm-hmm.
requires an audience willing to be in the room.
You have to show up.
The absolute best way to understand this music isn't streaming it in isolation. It's showing up to spaces like Noise Pop.
Yeah.
It's a communal laboratory where the older generation of tape splicers and the new generation of acoustic improvisers cross paths and challenge each other in real time.
You have to feel the resonance, literally and figuratively, with other people. Just to pull all of this together for you listening, we have mapped a 50-year trajectory through one of the most relentlessly creative regions on Earth.
A really wild ride.
We started in the late 70s with survival research laboratories weaponizing heavy machinery to critique the industrial age.
Right.
We shifted into the 80s with Negativland chopping up analog tape to expose the manipulative noise of mass media.
And from there, we entered the surgical theaters of the 90s and 2000s with Matmos, who proved that the microscopic, clinical sounds of the human body could be transformed into high-concept rhythmic art.
And finally, arriving at the resilient ecosystem of today where digital distribution meets vibrant local festivals and where the raw, dissonant pluck of an acoustic guitar can challenge our ears just as effectively as a bulldozer.
It's amazing.
It is a testament to the fact that as long as society keeps building structures, there will be artists figuring out how to sonically dismantle them.
This raises an important question to leave you with, though.
Okay, what's that?
If we look at the current trajectory of technology,
Yep.
where algorithms are now being trained to intentionally generate imperfections and, lo-fi tape hiss,
Yeah.
just to simulate human warmth in our digital music,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
the rebellion of messy noise might soon be co-opted by the machines themselves. So, if AI learns to perfectly replicate the chaotic human collage, will absolute mathematical silence become the next frontier of noise?
What?
Where do experimental artists go to rebel when the algorithm learns how to sound dangerous?
That is a chilling thought. If the machines figure out how to fake the chaos, maybe pure, uncomfortable silence is the only avant-garde statement left.
Something to consider.
Definitely something to chew on the next time you put on your noise-canceling headphones. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. Keep your ears open, embrace the unexpected, and we'll catch you next time.